Even though I possess the authority to order military strikes, I believed it was right, in the absence of a direct or imminent threat to our security, to take this debate to Congress. I believe our democracy is stronger when the President acts with the support of Congress. And I believe that America acts more effectively abroad when we stand together. This is especially true after a decade that put more and more war-making power in the hands of the President and more burdens on the shoulders of our troops, while sidelining the people's representatives from the critical decisions about when we use force.
President Obama speaking tonight on why he went to Congress on the issue of Syria. Before the president made that decision to bring the Syria issue to Congress, it was a Republican congressman from Virginia named Congressman Scott Rigell who spearheaded a letter to the president asking him to do just that, saying at the time that although the Congress was on vacation, they stood ready to come back and start debating and making decisions on this issue due to their constitutional burden to make those decisions for the country. What happens now between the president and Congress now that we're in a different space in terms of our relationship between our country and the problem in Syria with chemical weapons? Joining us now is Congressman Scott Rigell, Republican of Virginia. He's a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman Rigell, it's good to have you back here tonight. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
The president made a broad-ranging speech tonight where he talked about why he wants Congress to authorize the U.S. use of military force in Syria, but also why he wants to give these diplomatic offers a chance. What's your reaction to the speech tonight?
Well, with full recognition of the track record of the Syrians and the Russians, I still am encouraged by this recent development. And I'm actually surprised that how it came about. It seemed like it was somewhat of a light or flippant moment there in the interview in the press conference with Secretary Kerry, and this idea was floated, as you know, and I'd like to think that the State Department was looking at a range of options, and we weren't just given the two, which was either you're for a strike or you're for doing nothing, and I just rejected that was the full range of options. And I'm glad that this one has come up. And again, it's with the full recognition that the Russians and the Syrians don't have a great track record with following through.
However this came about, and it did seem to move very quickly. Now, of course, the White House is saying that President Obama and President Putin had discussed this matter at the G20 when they met privately. They gave a long TikTok of how this might have this might have been born publicly after a longer process than we were all aware of. But as a champion of this issue being resolved in Congress, what do you make of the president now saying that Congress should delay its vote until we see if this is going to work? Delay voting on the authorizing the use of military force to see if it's needed?
Well, I think that's a wise call. Now, I think the political reality here, Rachel, is, and I take no pleasure in saying this, but I think the reality is that the votes just weren't there. Now, I applaud the president for coming to Congress, and as you know, I hold the view and did earlier on that the real constitutional path that the president had to follow was to come to Congress. I looked at what happened in Libya, and that was very instructive to me. 221 Tomahawk missiles were launched and other munitions, over 700 JDAM munitions, and yet that didn't rise to the level of hostility defined in the War Powers Act. Well, then what would? So as we headed into Syria, and I saw things escalating, about 2.5 weeks ago, we drafted the letter that you mentioned, and I was so encouraged when so many Democratic colleagues and my friends signed on with us, and it was a pretty strongly worded letter. It really said that we thought that his action in Libya was actually unconstitutional. Now, I know that people argue that point, and good people, Republicans, are telling me, Scott, you know, you're holding a too strict a view there. But I really believe, absent that we are under attack or an attack is imminent, as in this case, the president really must come to Congress. And I applaud him for that part of his decision.
Congressman Scott Rigell of Virginia, thank you very much for your time talking to us about this tonight, sir. It's good to have you back. Thank you.
Thank you.